Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is DP Singhbuller, and today we talk about basics of shooting and editing of music video.
And taking on your first music video. Let's get started. Let's kick this off with camera settings. This is the most frequently asked questions. Should I be filming in 24 FPS, 60 FPS? What variable frame rate should I be filming in for slow motion? And what color profile should I be using for music videos? So let's start with frame rates. So every DSLR camera that's in this day and age, used or new, will come with 24 FPS and 60 FPS. These are two key frame rates that you will need to film your music videos. So let's start with 24 FPS. So I want you to take your hand out right now and start waving it in front of your phone screen like this. As you can see, there's a natural motion blur when you're waving your hand in front of your look. So exactly what you would see if you're just, looking at someone or seeing a moving object in real life. So 24 FPS will just in general give you a very cinematic look, which is why a lot of people preach that you should film majority of your music videos in 24 FPS unless the shot calls for 60 FPS, meaning that you're going to slow motion the footage, which we're about to get into. So one thing to keep in mind when you are filming in any frame rate, let's say you're filming in 24 FPS for example, you're going to want to double up your shutter speed. So you want your shutter speed to be 1/50. So you basically just take your 24 frames per second, times that by 2, and that's what your shutter speed value will have to be set at. So timesing 24 by 2 is 48, but DSLR cameras shoot at 1/50th of a shutter, so you're just going to round up to that number. Same goes for 60 FPS, which again we're about to get into, but when you're shooting in 60 FPS, times that by 2, that's 120. It rounds up to 1/125 for DSLR cameras. So let's expand on 24 FPS for music videos. So generally when I film my performance scenes, which if you don't know what a performance scene is when the artist is singing along to the song while you're filming the artist. This will allow you to sync up the audio in the real time from the camera to the master version of the audio when you go to edit the music video. So when I film my 24 FPS shots, I always film at 1/50 shutter. So this is just a general rule of thumb, something that you should just stick to. We're going to be talking about ND filters a little later on. If you guys are having issues shooting in 50 shutter in broad daylight, I'm going to explain to you guys how you can actually achieve this with a variable ND filter. But again, we're going to get into that in the camera equipment video. 60 FPS for music videos. When do you use 60 FPS and how do you use 60 FPS to its full potential for music videos when you're just starting out? Cameras such as the Canon T3i, as cheap as the Canon T3i, will be able to shoot in 60 FPS. Sure, it's downscaled to 1080, but that's fine, especially if you're just starting out and that's the only DSLR camera that you have access to at the time. So in order to film proper 60 FPS footage that's going to come out nice and smooth, you want to make sure your shutter speed is set to 1/125. So make sure that shutter number is at 125 when you're filming in 60 FPS. That's very important.
गाना शूट हो रहा है रो के दसेगा ते शूट कर रहा है मेरा भरा भुल्लर ग्राफिक ते साडे घर दी टीम दा मेरा भरा ही है बड़ी मेहनत की है ते ने पीड़ा चक्के भी ये गाना करना इन्हें और जान ला रहे बट हुण इन्हें जो काम देखिया मैं ते बंदे ने तसल्ली करा रखी चंगे हो गए मेरे को बेस्ट ऑफ लक भरा नो ते बाकी ते तुसीं हुण तसल्ली कराउणी है गाना बहुत सोहना है रो रो के दसेगा.
Now expanding further on 60 FPS, I'm going to only use 60 FPS when I'm going for a slow motion shot. So when I am filming or wanting some clip FPS, we don't want to do that. It's going to take away from the natural aspect of the video when you only shoot in 60 FPS and you don't tie in the 24 FPS scenes. I see a lot of people do this and there's something off about the videos. It just doesn't seem right. So what I like to do for my music videos is I film majority, I would say about 90% of my performance scenes in 24 FPS, and then all my B-roll shots I'm going to film in 60 FPS or a higher frame rate such as 120, 150, or even 180 FPS for those extreme slow motion shots. So rule of thumb, if you have a DSLR camera that doesn't shoot variable frame rates, maybe you're an up-and-coming filmmaker and you only have access to 24 FPS and 60 FPS, yes, you can pick up a DSLR camera and shoot your first music video, 100%. Now, another question that comes up is, should I be filming my B-roll in 60 FPS or a variable frame rate such as 120 FPS? It really depends on what your treatment calls for. If I feel that a certain shot in a certain environment will look best at an extreme slow motion such as 120, 150, 180 FPS, I'll shoot at that variable frame rate. but maybe I'm in a low light situation and I could use a lower aperture setting. At that point, I will for sure run 60 FPS. Now, I filmed with the Lumix GH5 and now I film with my main camera, which is the Lumix S1. And those actually can film 60 FPS up to 4K quality. So I like to keep my entire videos at 4K quality. For the 60 FPS slow motion, there's just no better look than that extreme sharp 4K look, but in slow motion, essentially. So I personally like to keep all of my clips at 4K 60. It, again, just makes everything look super sharp, and I don't have to downscale down to 1080p when I do go to a variable frame rate such as 120 or 150 FPS. So really, it just comes down to the shooter, it comes down to your environment, and whatever you think will look best on set. I personally like to stick majority of the time to 4K 60 FPS. Now, because I touched on performance scenes a bunch in the camera settings section here, I want to come to bite you in the ass when you are editing a video, and let's say you filmed a performance scene of the first 30 seconds of the song, and then maybe you weren't recording for, and like you cut the camera off and you weren't recording for maybe 20 seconds, and then you picked it back up at like around a minute, and then you recorded for another maybe minute, and then the last 30 seconds of the song's cut off. So what happens when you go to edit the video and you have to fill all these little sections where you didn't have performance scene clips with B-roll, and the artist comes back and says, oh, I didn't like these B-roll shots, I really wanted performance scenes for these areas, and then you say, I actually unfortunately wasn't recording. So that kind of leaves you in a weird situation where you just don't have the performance scenes, you didn't film the performance scenes. So this is a reason why from the beginning, ever since I started shooting music videos, I just always felt that shooting the song from the very beginning to the very end just leaves me with so much footage to play around with, and I feel that I'm just a much quicker editor in post when I'm not surfing around for B-roll clips to fill in areas where I wasn't filming. For settings should you be using for your music video sets? So to dumb things down, the lower the aperture number, the more blurry background that you're going to get behind your subject. So this is called bokeh. So personally, I like to sit at around the f1.8 to f2.8 mark. I just feel anything more than f2.8, you really start to lose that blurry background, which gives off a really nice cinematic look. Now, when you're filming with a gimbal with a wide angle lens, I highly suggest that you sit at f4.5 to f5.0. This will just allow for everything to be in focus, essentially. Especially when you're using a wide angle, you typically aren't going to be trying to blur out the background. So when you are shooting with a wide angle lens, such as a Sony 16mm, Tokina 11 to 20mm f2.8, you're going to want to sit at around f4.5, 4.6 to f5.0. Personally, that's just what's worked best for me. And if you're using something like a 35mm focal length, it's where you're going to want to get those blurry backgrounds. So even when you are using a gimbal, that's when I'll turn down the aperture to f1.8 to f2.8. So your ISO value will basically determine how much noise is in your footage. So that really annoying grain that you'll see in your footage is due to your ISO setting being too high. So something like a Lumix GH5, which has a really tiny micro four thirds cropped sensor, it's really difficult to not get grainy footage over 1250 ISO. For a camera body like a full frame Lumix S1 with dual native ISO built into it, I don't really see much grain until after 4000 ISO. For a full frame versus like a micro four thirds, the less grain that you're gonna have at higher ISOs. Now, typically when you're shooting anything, it doesn't even have to be music videos. Any type of video, you're gonna wanna be shooting at the lowest ISO value. Now, I wouldn't recommend going more than like 800 ISO depending on your camera. I try to stick lower than 800 ISO for any of my shots. Now, this is where lighting comes into play, and this is where you really gotta experiment with different lighting techniques, external lighting techniques and whatnot. But when you're filming your first music videos, I highly suggest just shooting everything in daylight. Pick yourself up a variable ND filter, and it's going to make your life a lot easier, and you'll just be able to get through the motions of getting into the niche of music videography. All right, so picture profiles for music videos. So picture profiles can range from S-Log for Sony, C-Log for Canon, V-Log for Lumix, and so on and so forth. So log profiles are basically, they look very desaturated is the best way to explain it. Now, these camera companies have built in these color profiles for a reason. So basically, they will give you the most dynamic range out of your footage. Now, dynamic range, what do I mean by that? To dumb things down again, let's say you're filming outdoors on a broad daylight sunny day, and let's say you're shooting an artist doing a performance scene, rapping outside, and the artist is in perfect exposure, but the whole sky is blown out and super bright. This is because you're maybe filming in a natural color profile. So try to stay away from the natural color profiles. However, shooting in, C-Log, S-Log, V-Log, it's going to require more color grading because it's going to look very bland right out of the camera when you shoot it raw. Now, if you're very new to custom color grading, I suggest just starting with LUTs. Now, we do actually sell log LUTs on our online shop, which I will leave a link in the description of this video for. We sell a pack of 4 log LUTs, and we actually have a free LUT on there as well if you go and check that out. LUTs are just a great way to start with color grading. It's the most introductory way to color grade your footage. It's gonna take a little bit of quality away, and you won't be able to really dial in and customize your own look for the colors. However, I almost feel like shooting in a log format of some sort, whether it is C-log or a green screen, or having really cool lighting on set and just a cool different location. Now, if you live in an area like me where there isn't a lot of studios to rent, then this isn't really an option for people like us. However, if you live in a place like LA, where there's, an abundance of different locations that you can rent for the day, for a half day, full day. So next up, we have how to film in a studio environment. This is something that when you are up and coming, you are gonna end up in recording studios with the artist. Artists just love shooting in recording studios because there's just so many different vibe shots that you can get, whether it's the artist pretending to, mix their track, or, in front of like the deck and everything, or they're maybe putting the headphones on and they're singing into the mic and pretending to record the song live. So this is something that when you do get heavier into music videos, you will 100% end up in a recording studio. And I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to get different shots and how to be very aware of what to film when in a recording studio with an artist. So tip number 1, straight up, just be aware. Make sure that your hand is hovering over that record button at all times and you're just analyzing the room. Just straight up analyze your environment. When you see that an artist is maybe, or an extra is about to tell a joke or is telling a joke, have the camera rolling. Wait for those organic emotion shots where people are going to start laughing in front of the camera and not faking it, so it'll look a lot more natural. Tip number 2, smoking shots. A lot of different recording studios will allow artists or people to smoke inside of them. Try to capture this in 60 FPS. They always look really dope, especially when the artist is smoking and rapping into the mic in the booth. Looks really dope. Or when they're in front of the recording panel in the chill or like lounge area, recording the extra smoking or the artist smoking. It just looks really dope and it adds to it, and artists love those types of shots. Now, tip number 3, this kind of comes back to tip number 1 of being aware, but when the artist is sitting there, let's say they are playing the track and they're, bobbing their head, they're moving their hands or something, try to catch that raw emotion again, guys. Like, you can even tell the artist to like sit in front of the mic and like bob their head just to get those B-roll shots. Chances are 99% of the time this always happens where the artist will be, bobbing their head and just totally vibing out with the extras or just on their own. Be sure to capture this. This raw emotion is something that is very difficult for people to replicate because a lot of artists aren't actors. They're artists, they're rappers, they're, pop singers, they're not actors. So try to catch this raw emotion whenever you can. So tip number 4, how to get performance scenes when you're filming in a studio environment. So I typically like to shoot 3 different performance scenes in studios. So all 3 of these performance scenes, I'm going to use examples of the artist singing into the microphone. So they're inside of the booth, and assuming that you have enough room to film the artist in the booth, what I like to do is I like to back up from the artist and shoot from their waist up. And I'll just do a simple 24 FPS performance scene shooting in 50 shutter, and I'll just sway back and forth. I'll put some natural handheld movement into it, and I'll just simply sway back and forth and shoot the artist doing the performance scene. Performance scene number 2, I'm gonna get a shot from the top of the shoulder to the top of the head. Now this is gonna be a more close-up shot in 24 FPS, and again, same thing. I'm literally just gonna be tracking the artist's head and their mouth of like where they are in front of the mic. I'm trying not to do too much motion here. I'm just really trying to capture that performance scene from very beginning of the song to the very end of the song. So performance scene number 3 that I'm gonna get, I'm actually gonna shoot in 60 FPS. So when the artist thinks that they're doing a performance scene, I'm actually shooting in 60 FPS. Now I have the option to use this as a performance scene, or I can take any of the clips within the entire song and use it as B-roll. So I can use it as slow motion clips. So this is a great opportunity just to get, slow motion singing shots of the artist spitting into the mic. And other little B-roll shots that you can do in the studio. Now this just comes down to your creativity as a director, but you can tell the artist, walk into the booth, put on the headphones. I'm gonna get a slow motion from, 2 different angles of you putting on the headphones. I can get a slow motion of the artist, adjusting the microphone and getting ready to sing into the mic. So next, let's go over run and gun music videos. So run and gun music videos is typically something that you're gonna film for your first music video. Basically what I mean is a flex video. Let's be honest, a run and gun video is just a flex video. So there's gonna be little to no storytelling in these, little to no treatment. Maybe you'll have your like 2 or 3 locations dialed in and ready to go. But for the most part, you're just meeting up with the artist. They're doing performance scenes, random B-roll shots, somewhere outdoors in a downtown area. Let's just say you're pretty much in and out in 3 or 4 hours. So there's nothing wrong with run and gun music videos. I did them for probably my first 10 music videos, to be completely honest. But this gives you a really good idea of what it's like to be on a music video set, and you really go through the motions of just making a lot of mistakes even when you are filming the run and gun stuff, even though it typically is the most easiest type of music video to film because you're not stressed about having a storyline with proper lighting. It's just very run and gun. So although I don't do too much run and gun stuff anymore, some tips and tricks that I have for you if you are looking to do this type of video shoot, if you are an up and coming director, an up and coming music videographer, I would say just pack light. Bring a backpack, bring a handheld gimbal such as a DJI Ronin SC, Ronin S, Zhiyun Crane. Something that's handheld is always the best for run and gun stuff. And then I would look into packing maybe 2 lenses, so a 35mm or a prime lens, and then a wide angle lens. And then I would look into making sure that you have extra SD cards on set. And also a big one is a Bluetooth speaker. This is something that you're for sure gonna want. And then you can also carry a external power bank with you in case that Bluetooth speaker dies, because the last thing you want is for artists to not have upbeat performance scenes when they are doing their performance scenes. You always wanna have a loud Bluetooth speaker on hand. Bluetooth speaker that I recommend, which we're going to talk about a little later on in this video, is the JBL Clip 3 speaker. It's awesome. We'll talk about it a little later on, like I said. Let's touch on the unwritten rules of music videos, something that you may not be used to if you're used to shooting corporate videos, fitness videos, or really anything other than music videos. Rappers run on rapper time. I'm not even kidding, guys. I've been on high budget music videos such as, honest to God, I've been on an Ugly God set and the artist showed up like 3 or 4 hours late to set because he was getting a haircut and buying new shoes. I'm not even kidding. Now, I've been on the lowest end of music videos where I'm doing them for free, I'm up and coming, and the artists show up 2 or 3 hours late. And I've seen this happen in anything in between the high budget and low budget. It just always happens. It's just a thing. It's something that you need to get used to. It may be annoying to you, but if an artist does show up late, you need to be chill about it. Stay chill. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. This happens to everybody. It's not just you. It's not just that artist. This just always happens. Now, if you are laid back about things, you're chill about things, keep in mind that this actually, in a way, passively kind of makes that relationship better and better with the artist that you're working with. Chances are, if you give off a chill vibe, they're probably going to feel bad for showing up late on set. And if you're laid back about it, chances are that these little things will make them want to rehire you in the future and pay you more money, potentially. Now, my tip number 2 for the unwritten rules of music videos, you guys need to make sure to take your deposits. If you're starting to charge for music videos, take 50% deposit down. Now, the reason why I say 50% down is that's just a good amount of money to lock in that date so that the artist is actually taking the day of the shoot seriously, and chances are they won't rebook on you. Or in other words, let's say you don't take a deposit and you come up with this whole treatment plan and you have everything shot listed, and then the artist ducks out on you, goes with another director, takes your treatment, and uses it with another film director. It's the last thing you want. You don't want to put in all that upfront sweat equity. So with that being said, take a deposit and make sure that that artist is locked in to shoot that music video with you. So how to kind of save your ass when you are, delivering the final product to the artist. What I like to do is I put in low opacity draft, like I'm doing right here. Low opacity draft in ugly letters, and the last thing the artist is going to want to do is rip that video and post it on their YouTube or Instagram pages and essentially steal that video from you. They're not going to want to. They're going to have to basically pay you the last 50% to unlock the final video edit where you don't have the opacity draft text up above the screen or wherever you place it. I like to put it somewhere up here at about 10% opacity just to make it super noticeable. Once the artist has paid me for the remainder of the music video, at that point, I will then give them the final edit without the text on screen. All right, so let's go over what equipment to use on set. Now, this is a frequently asked question that I get all the time. So let's start with handheld. So when you're filming handheld for music videos, let's say you don't have a gimbal yet, but you wanna invest in a handheld rig. My honest opinion, just invest in a small rig cage. You can type in, let's say you own a Sony a6400, type in small rig a6400 camera cage, and it will pop up. They range from $60 to about $140. In my opinion, very inexpensive because a lot of them do come with a top handle, and adding that extra weight to your camera will actually help with the stability of your handheld shots. Maybe you do own a external monitor, you will be able to attach that monitor with a small rig adapter to the top of your camera cage, so then you can better see and expose your shots, especially in broad daylight. As for the gimbal that I use for music videos, I'm an OG. I've been using gimbals for about over 4 years now, and I use the DJI Ronin M. Yes, I'm an oldie with that. I just love the DJI Ronin M. I feel that having the side grips and the top grip just makes for the most stable shots. I will always use the Ronin. Now, the reason why they call it a variable ND filter is you can adjust it on the fly. So let's say you set your camera in broad daylight to 100 ISO, f2.8, and shutter speed set to 50 in 24 FPS. So what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to screw on this variable ND filter to the front of your camera, and you're going to add shade to your footage. So it's going to be able to perfectly expose your footage for the aperture, ISO, shutter speed values in correlation to the frame rate that you're filming in. So this is a major key. I, for the record, never leave for a shoot that will 100% be in broad daylight without an ND filter. I always carry ND filters with me. For ND filters, I would recommend the Optex ND filters or the Tiffin ND filters are just two really great options. I've owned my ND filters now for upwards of 3 years, and I still use them to this day. So another very important piece to filming music videos is a Bluetooth speaker. The last thing you want is the artist to be rapping to the song off of a cell phone. You do not want that. It's going to completely kill the vibe for the performance scene, so you're going to want to invest in a Bluetooth speaker if you don't already own one. I highly suggest the JBL Clip 3 speaker. The reason for this is that it has a little clip on the top of it, so you can clip it to while you're doing your performance scenes, so you always have the song playing full blast right next to your camera. This will make for syncing the live performance scene to the mastered version of the audio way quicker, way easier. It's going to save you a massive headache. So I have a few different lens recommendations. This again is another frequently asked question for music videos. Now, I did make a video on my top 5 lenses for music videos, which I will leave in a hover card up here if you want a really in-depth look on the reason why I chose these lenses for music videos. So the first one we have is the Sigma 18-35 f1.8. Now this is just like an iconic lens that a lot of filmmakers, whether they are a music videographer or just regular creative shooter, will get and have in their arsenal. Now the reason why the 18-35 is so versatile is because you can get a pretty relatively wide shot at 18 millimeters, but then you can get that beautiful 35 mil focal length when you're punched in all the way on these lenses. And the nice thing about it is it's f1.8, so it's a great low light option lens. And coming in at just under $1,000, totally worth the cop. And keep in mind that the Sigma 18-35 was a lens that I actually used for probably the first 2 or 3 years of my music video career, and this is just a lens that has always just stayed in my arsenal. I don't use it anymore because the next lens I'm about to talk about, which is the Sigma 35mm f1.4 L mount, so I mount this natively to my Lumix S1, has taken over my 18-35. I rarely use my 18-35 anymore because I'm just so in love with the Sigma 35mm prime. I think that getting a prime lens is just a must when you're shooting music videos. It's going to add so much more sharpness and depth to your footage, and the f1.4 is really nice for gimbal shots when you are circling around the artist while they're doing a performance scene, and you can just get such a nice blurry background, and the background is just moving really quickly behind your subject if they're staying still. The 35mm focal length is a focal length that is in my camera bag for every single shoot, whether it is a music video or a corporate video. So for a wide angle lens, recommend $2,000 to $4,000 mark. It's a little on the higher budget side, but all of these cameras would be perfect for music videos. I personally have used the GH5 when it first came out, and I now use the Lumix S1. Now for lower budget cameras, let's say you're just kind of trying to test the waters of music videos, I would highly suggest Lumix G7, Lumix G9, the Canon M50, the Lumix GH4, or the Sony a6400. Now, in my opinion, a camera bag is necessary, especially for keeping your gear organized when on set. I highly recommend the Low Pro Fast Pack backpack. So these backpacks are just padded so nicely. They're great. I've been using it for about 4 years now, and nothing's ripped on it. Everything works like new. Now, when I've pulled up to sets, I can fit my GH5 equipment can fit into this backpack. Now, if you guys want a more in-depth review on that backpack, I'll leave a hover card up here. We made a video of top 7 must-have items for filmmakers, and I did review the Low Pro Fastpack backpack in that video, so go check that out when you're finished up with this video. So maybe you haven't purchased a gimbal yet. It's all good. I'm gonna give you guys some awesome handheld techniques that you guys can use in your next music video shoots. And to be quite honest, I actually shoot majority of my music videos handheld now. I've kind of ditched the gimbal, and I'm gonna explain why. So here's a couple high energy handheld techniques that you guys can use for your next music video. So I'm gonna be laying over some B-roll shots of me filming music videos, as well as shots that I've actually done handheld, as well as some raw clips of music video sets where I have been implementing these handheld high energy techniques into. So a big one is turning your in-body image stabilization off on your camera. Now, a lot of cameras don't actually have this. This is something that was introduced in like the GH5 era. So if your camera doesn't have in-body image stabilization, you don't even have to really worry about this or having the image stabilization turned on. Basically, what I'm gonna do is when the camera's in-body image stabilization is turned off, you're gonna get a lot of natural handheld movements. So this will create a really upbeat and hype movement for your handheld shots. So basically what I'm gonna do when I'm filming my handheld shots is I'm gonna be tracking the movement of the artist. So when the artist's hand goes up in the air, I'm gonna actually track their hand going up in the air and then pull back to their face. This is just a really cool and kind of fun technique to use for your handheld shots. It's something that I always do, and it just sets your footage apart from the people that are going out and filming the entire music video using a gimbal. Try to sprinkle in the handheld shots in there. Maybe you're not a gimbal user, maybe you don't own a gimbal. You know, you can pull off a music video 100% handheld. I do it all the time. My past probably 10 music videos that I've filmed have been majority handheld. Like I'm talking 80-90% of my music videos have been handheld for the last 10 of them. Now a tip for more smoother handheld shots. Now if your camera body does have in-body image stabilization, I highly recommend you turn it on. If you don't, then you're just gonna have to make sure that you didn't drink a Red Bull before your shoot and you can keep everything nice and steady and you're not shaking around everywhere. So basically what I'll do for these is I'll just keep things chill. Maybe I'll shoot the artist from the side or even from the front. Maybe it's not a really upbeat song, it's more laid back. Now the biggest tip for getting smooth handheld shots when you're actually trying to get a smooth shot is you suck your elbows into your ribs, hug the camera body to your chest, your forearms should be touching your chest like so, and what you're gonna wanna do is not just sit there pointing the camera at the artist, you're gonna wanna put just a little bit of natural motion in there. So you're gonna kind of sway back and forth.
Oh, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ, ਮੈਂ ਬਾਬਾ ਰਾਜਾ ਔਰ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗਾਣੇ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੂਟ ਕਰਨ ਆਏ ਸੀਗੇ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਗਾਣਾ ਗਾਇਆ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੀਰ ਜਨਾਬ ਮਾਸ਼ਾਲੀ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਉਹਨੇ ਸ਼ਾਲੀ ਜੀ ਤੇ ਜੋ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਡੀਪੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਪੋਲਰ ਗ੍ਰਾਫਿਕਸ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਵੀਰ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਔਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਝ ਛੋਟੀਆਂ ਲਾਈਨਾਂ ਗਾਈਆਂ ਵੀ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਦੋ ਸੁਣਾ ਦਿੰਦਾ ਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ गलतियां हुईयां मेरे तो माफियां मंगियां तेरे तो आ भी जा वापस आ जा तू खुशियां भी उड़ियां चेहरे तो गलतियां हुईयां मेरे तो माफियां मंगियां तेरे तो आ भी जा वापस आ जा तू खुशियां भी उड़ियां चेहरे
Keep going. So let's talk about different types of gimbal movement patterns. So the first one we have is just a semicircling around the artist while they're doing a performance scene. This is one of my favorite types of shots to get. I personally like filming this one with a 35mm focal length. So basically what you're going to do is start from one end of the artist and you're going to semicircle around the artist with your gimbal, and you're going to want to make sure that you're at about eye level with the gimbal and you're just going to keep going back and forth. So this is awesome to do when you are filming performance scenes because you can shoot the song from very beginning to the very end and it will give you a lot of footage to play around with. Tip number 2 is doing the exact same thing as tip number 1, but this time get a little closer. Shoot from about the chest up to your subject and point the gimbal slightly upwards. So you're still doing the semicircle pattern, but this time you're going to be slightly tilting the gimbal upwards and you're still going to be doing that nice panning motion. This just gives you a different type of look for your gimbal shots. I feel like if you're just always doing the straight on eye level type of gimbal shots, it just starts to look the same. So what I do is just simply have the camera at about chest level and then I slightly tilt the gimbal upwards, or if you're handheld, just slightly tilt it up, and then you start doing your semicircle motion. Now last but not least, I swear every gimbal user who just picks up a gimbal for the first time does this motion, the push in and push out. I swear it's just like weird human instinct that when you pick up a gimbal, that's like the first movement that you want to use with it. It is used on a lot of professional sets and by a lot of amateurs. In my opinion, I love using the push in, push out with a wide angle lens. So again, a Sony 16mm or the Tokina 11-20mm would be perfect for this. And these push in, push out
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਲੱਜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਲੱਜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਫਿਰ ਲੱਭੇਗਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ। ਬਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਬੋਲ ਨੂੰ, ਤਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਨੈਣਾ ਵਾਲੀ ਬਦਲੀ। ਬਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਬੋਲ ਨੂੰ, ਤਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਬੋਲ ਨੂੰ, ਤਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ।
Dead center of the artist. Now another little tip for doing this, when you do, let's say, keyframe from the top right and back into the middle, then you can add a slow keyframe back in. It looks beautiful. Guys, start using tripod shots for your music videos. I always see people that just run.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਲੱਜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਲੱਜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਫਿਰ ਲੱਭੇਗਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ। ਬਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਬੋਲ ਨੂੰ, ਤਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਨੈਣਾ ਵਾਲੀ ਬਦਲੀ। ਬਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਬੋਲ ਨੂੰ, ਤਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਬੋਲ ਨੂੰ, ਤਰਸਣਾ ਜਦੋਂ।
So let's say you make 3 or 4 music videos and you did them all for free. Take the best clips off of those music videos and make a 1-minute highlight reel. Then take that highlight reel and post it onto your YouTube channel as well as your Instagram platform and promo the hell out of that Instagram post. This will give potential clients a really good understanding of what you're capable of shooting and if they're gonna wanna book you or not. Tip number 2 is attending live shows. Now I know this isn't really a thing right now during COVID-19, in the worldwide pandemic. However, when things go back to normal, attend live local shows. You're basically just showing the artist love at this point. You're pulling up to the show, you're supporting the artist by paying the door fee, which pays the artist to be there, and it gives you the opportunity to get face-to-face with these up-and-coming local artists. So I remember once, before I really got into music videos, I maybe shot a few of them, and I want to start branching out and finding out about new local artists who maybe haven't had music videos shot yet. So basically what I did was I went to the local show and I offered to do a recap video for free. So this got me into the show for free. I didn't have to pay at the door, and I did a little cool recap, which I was able to tag all of the artists in the recap video after I posted onto Facebook and Instagram, which instantly showed love to the artist. And every single artist that I tagged in the recap video actually hit me up for music videos, asking me how much I charge for music videos. And that's where I started to charge for my music videos. It wasn't much. It maybe started at $100, $200, but it slowly worked its way up to a decent price over the years. And not to mention as well, this really builds a solid relationship with the client. And believe it or not, 4 out of the 6 artists that performed at that local show 4 years ago still book me for music videos to this day. So yeah, get out there guys. Once COVID kind of settles down, get out there to local shows, network, and I will guarantee you that you will leave with at least one music video client. Your social media is your resume. When you're posting to YouTube or Instagram, especially Instagram because it has become a really well-known storefront at this point. I kind of see Instagram as like the modern day business card. So keep that in mind when you are posting promo videos or music videos. You really never know who is watching your content and what potential client is looking at your page. So try to keep it professional when you're posting onto Instagram. Make sure to repost all of the music videos that you're shooting. And maybe not once, but 4 times over the course of, I don't know, a few months. Just keep trickling out content that you're posting. That's what I did. It 100% helped me get more clients. So once you've filmed about 10 to 15 music videos, it's now time to look into making an overall highlight reel or director's reel. Now, I urge that every single filmmaker should have a director reel posted to YouTube as well as uploaded to either a shortened version on Instagram or uploaded via IGTV. This really gives a good understanding to artists or potential clients on what type of shots that you can pull off. So let's say an artist approaches you on Instagram or via email, DM, whatever it is, and they say, hey, can I check out some of your work or some of your recent work? Boom, you send them the link to a YouTube video to your highlight reel, and that will basically say it all. A lot of the times when I send my highlight reel, artists will book me right away. I put a lot of time into my highlight reels because I know that I'm going to be sending that highlight reel off to potential clients who could be potentially paid clients. All right guys, so that pretty much wraps it up for how to shoot music videos tailored for beginners. Now my music video tutorials over the years have been a legitimate proof of concept for helping filmmakers take their music video game to the next level, or just simply giving them enough confidence to take their first music video shoot. A lot of people always ask me, why do you always give away all your secrets and your tips and tricks? Now, to be completely honest, the content is very consumable, yes. Sure, you may pick up a tip or two, but the chances of most filmmakers actually taking my tips and tricks and secrets and applying it to their films and their sets is actually pretty slim. So if you've made it this far into the video, I know for a fact that you, the viewer, the filmmaker, the creator, are looking to really take your music video game to the next level. And with that being said, I hope that this video gives you just that extra boost and that extra confidence to, take your next music video or take these tips and tricks and just better your next music video set. Now, if this video helped you, be sure to leave a comment down below and smash that like button. It really does help the channel, and I appreciate your support. Thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to check out our online shop. Again, links in the description for that, for LUTs, presets, raw editing files, and more. Go and check it out. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more filmmaking tips, tricks, vlogs, tutorials, and more. Catch you guys on the next one.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚੰਗੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੈਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਲੱਜਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ। ਫਿਰ ਲੱਭੇਗਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ। ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ। ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ, ਵੇ ਰੋ ਰੋ ਕੇ ਦੱਸੇਗਾ।